hope you're all still awake. Late Night Mega here, and today we're going to take on the second trial. Of course, the major trial here is trying to aim the character up the steps. Trial of the Sage. This is a great start already. So yeah, we're at the trial aisle, which looks a lot like the Watcher's place, but Drustin, one of the 4 legendary heroes, built this place to help train the future luminary, which is us. Of course, we got the weird little realm between worlds. I don't know why that's necessary. We're at the first forest. This is now the Fierce Forest. Well, this isn't a treasure. And there's our purple teleporter. We just found the exit within 20 seconds. Okay. I'm actually gonna go back because I want the treasures from this place, and the treasures from the first trial were really good and worth collecting, for the most part, especially since some of them were mini medals. And this looks like a new enemy. I don't know, I feel like I haven't fought too many of these horsey enemies. I did fight one off camera over in the Hado region. He was interesting. Was it off camera or was it on camera? I'm pretty sure it was off camera. It's called like Equinox or something. Yeah, but these guys, they still aren't going to give us much of a issue. Heal up the damage that they did and finish them off. Or not finish them off. I mean, that's an option too. Oh, it's because we didn't get the preemptive strike only affects one of the enemies, not, you know, all of them. That's why. There we go. And also, like last time, I'm going to try to avoid most of the battles here. And here's a sign. Lucas Overlook, path to the exit may lie far from the... That's a hint to the teleporter we just found. Okay. I wonder what these other teleporters are going to do. Should I even go through them first off, or... Well, I mean, there'll be a teleporter back, so yeah, why not? We're just searching for treasure at this point. We already found how to exit this place. This brings us back near the base. I'm gonna go through this cave. And for the most part, aside from that the first teleporter we found, most of the treasures are going to appear in the same areas. See, in Uber Agate Evolution. I will want that. I think. For crafting. Yeah, I'm gonna skip most of these enemies, even if I've fought them before or haven't fought them before. I want to get through these trials. And plus, I really don't feel like we need the levels at this point. There will, however, be some dragons that I fight, mainly because, you know, I do want to get serpent souls, and this game is Dragon Quest, so, you know, hunting dragons kind of fits. But actually, I do find a place later on to farm the serpent souls. I guess I'll explain that now, because when I go through the forging and looking at stuff, I'm going to do a lot of forging off camera, and I'll talk about tips for forging then. Yggdrasil crowns, those will actually be really cool. And by really cool, I mean I'm just going to make it and equip it to, it'll be for Rab. So to find serpent souls, which you can also transform by taking them to Crystalinda, and she can transform them into Black Tears, Crimsonite, and Kaleidocloth. I actually use a lot of Kaleidocloths and Crimsonite, so it's pretty good. But anyways, to get the Serpent Soul, what you want to do is go over to the big fat purple dragons in the far north of the Celestial Sands. This walking wire is out. That's our only teleporter back. Okay, so we have to go through the cave to get back. Fair enough. Yep, they kind of did the revamp by blocking us off from certain paths. I like that, because it means you can't just go through the same way you went through last time. It's different. It spices it up a bit, even though it's a layout that's, you know, the same as the first four, same as the dungeons that we've done. So I kind of like that. Let's see where this teleporter goes. It goes to, okay, this midsection. And there's a treasure over here in the water. Haha, 3 mini medals. That should give us the other 10 that we need for the final recipe. Well, the final prize at the mini medal place. I did not fully mean to run into these guys. Okay. That's fine. You know, I really should just go for Kasushal because there's really no penalty for doing that, since the Realm Between Worlds is going to heal us up anyways. And Sword Dance. Alright. Yeah, that's not okay. Alright, you guys are challenging. It's the other enemies that aren't. Just settle down. Yeah, we took both of them out with Sword Dance.
And stay down.
I like that ability. We'll start healing up with Kendrick's MP. Alright, but anyways, yeah, Serpent Souls, they're from the enemies far north, big fat purple guys with clubs. And just use Eric and have him steal with his half-inch ability. It costs 0 MP, so you can keep using it. They're not overly threatening by this point in the game. And what's really nice, though, is that's the only item that you will ever steal from them. At least it's the only item I ever stole from them. And sometimes they might even randomly drop it after battle, so you might steal one, then get another one after battle. And they're pretty quick to kill once you steal the thing. And yeah, I could farm like 1 a minute or something like that. So it wasn't bad at all. And that's actually a nice thing about the crafting items that I'm finding, that because I do end up doing, I should say, a lot of forging after these Drustin's trials. And it does require a little bit of going out and finding the crafting materials. But what's really nice is that the crafting materials aren't super difficult to track down. You don't have to jump through too many hoops. Not like in other games where you have to find, you know, specific items for crafting. I'm trying to think of some good examples. Final Fantasy IX comes to mind, because that game has a few items that Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy VIII, you kind of have to jump through some more hoops, whereas here, most of the crafting items, you can actually go to your miscellaneous info screen on here, there's actually a lot of information at our fingertips that I, for the most part, have not been using. But I do use it a bit more here. And you can actually look up any crafting materials that you found. It will tell you if you can buy it. It will tell you, and it'll tell you all the locations that you can find them at, whether it's sparkle spots or from monsters. It'll also tell you which monsters will drop it. And then you can go and look up the monster page to find out where the monster resides. And then find out if it's something you steal from them, or if there's, because some monsters will have 2 items, and typically the top one is the common drop. The Serpent Soul one, I think that's the only one from the Prosolas guys. Nightstick, we're going to need a lot of Nightsticks too. So I guess I'll talk about where you can get those. You can get those from the Malicious Brownies. They are on the island to the far southwest. And, you know, it's the only thing you ever steal from them. And usually it doesn't take more than 1 or 2 chances for Eric to steal something. At least from my experience at this point in the game with my levels and whatnot. And while I was farming for the items, I also equipped Eric with that necklace that we got from fixing Nia that makes rare items drop more frequently after battle. It's only like slightly more frequently. I think it's like 5% or something. So yeah, you can look up the crafting items just using our menu system, which is really nice. And then a good portion of the crafting items that I was missing could actually be bought from various stores around the world. Now that is the only complaint I have, is that when you can buy a crafting item, it doesn't really tell you where you can buy it from, and sometimes you might have to buy it from... Ooh, Serena's Circlet. Let's check that out. You may have to buy it from a campsite, because remember when we set up camping areas, there's that little vendor there. And there's a couple instances where we had that, and you couldn't buy them in any of the towns, so you'd look at where to find the item, and it wouldn't list any towns, but it'd list that it could be bought. And then it would list, you know, a whole bunch of places in the wilderness. But it doesn't tell you, you know, which place it can be bought at, so maybe just if there was a little bridge between that, that would have been nice. But yeah, other than that, we have a surprisingly good amount of information at our fingertips whenever we need to find specifics like that. Also, we do have the it's called Defeated Monster List in this game, not a bestiary, but I'm going to call it a bestiary because that's what it is to me. It does show you, like, all the monsters you've defeated, and I was going through there, and there's a lot of blanks. And I'm guessing a lot of them, some of them might be, you know, monsters around here that I'm just not fighting. But I'm guessing a lot of them, or at least a good portion of them, are monsters that you only find in the wilderness at night. Because some monsters do only appear at night. And as you've kind of noticed throughout this playthrough, I usually, when I'm at a campsite, I just rest till dawn. It's the first option, and, you know, it's just kind of... It just feels right, you know, you're setting out for a new day, you're rest, you're pumped, you're ready to take on the new challenges of the day, and not so much going out night hunting for monsters. And that's where I think I missed a good portion of the monsters. Another thing I think I missed, as far as a lot of the monsters are concerned, I'm going to fight these guys, are the rare versions of monsters, because I didn't sit around trying to farm too many of the rare monsters. So that's probably another one where we have the rare versions of monsters that I just haven't contended with. I got that thing. Oh, that didn't take it out. That's okay, we'll fix that. these guys, they're not difficult at all. So yeah, that's how I went about collecting the crafting materials that I didn't have. And yeah, for the things that at least for the things that I was trying to craft, it wasn't too much of a hassle to collect the items that I needed. And I do appreciate that, because as I've said throughout this whole Let's Play, I'm not a fan of having crafting. I'd rather just, you know, just have me hunt the items or the weapons themselves and let that be my reward instead of running around and being rewarded with all these crafting items and then have to find a recipe and then put them together and all that. And it's just, it's a lot of padding to the time that I'm just not super thrilled about. But if you are going to do a crafting system, you know, the crafting in this game has been alright. I'll leave it at that. But I'd prefer, you know, no crafting system. I prefer more of like the basics of RPGs. Again, going back to Final Fantasy IV, where, you know, you just find your weapons and armor either in treasures or buying them, and that's the only way you find them. Or from rare monster drops, but I'm not going to get into that. I usually don't get into farming for rare monster drops, because that's just not my cup of tea. That's not necessary in Final Fantasy IV. At least not, you know, the good versions of Final Fantasy IV, aka the PSP version, the Game Boy Advance version, not the DS version or the PC version, which is the 3D versions. Anyways, yeah, I'd prefer there not to be a forging system. I'd also prefer, you know, more simplistic RPGs where you don't have necessarily a skill tree and you don't have to manage skill points. But again, if you are going to manage skill points, what we were given here is a great way to do that. And I do like that, because it doesn't become a system where every character can learn and do everything at once. So when we do have job class systems or skill point systems like that, I do like this system. But I just prefer, you know, basic RPGs like Final Fantasy IV, where you have set characters, each character has their own set class or set traits, and that makes them unique. They will gain new abilities and magic as they level up naturally, and they'll come at specific levels, and I'm fine with that, because it means there's no need to manage that sort of stuff in menus outside of battle, because realistically that's not what I really want to be doing. I should probably battle that Cyclops enemy there. Now, this is a place I'm actually dreading, because I got so lost and confused last time we were here, and now we're starting at the end of this Golden Palace, and I think I'm going to end up missing some of the treasures that this place could have to offer. I'm okay with that. Of course I'm okay with that. If I wasn't, I'd come back and get them. Those things are both going to be traps, aren't they? That's going to take me down anyways. I should just try it out. It would be really convenient if I could just walk through and... Yeah, no. We're not going to get that lucky. Well, that's fine. I was going to have to go down here at some point anyways. So yeah, I just prefer, you know, keep me traveling through dungeons, keep me progressing the story. You know, if I do the random battles that I would normally run into, of course this game doesn't really have random battles, but I felt that we've leveled up fairly throughout the game. Yeah, I did post-game grinding. I did that too with Final Fantasy XII, so I don't mind that too much. But I'm not a big fan of just having to sit around and gain levels and grind in order to progress through the next area. I kind of expect that sort of thing at the very beginning of an RPG, when your characters are like level 1 and the normal enemies are you know, kind of threatening to you. Because that part interests me, but doing it through the mid-game or late game, not the biggest fan of that. And I know a lot of RPGs even kind of require that for like a final boss grinding sort of thing. Or very much, it's very much needed. And we got Drustin's shield. Well, that's going to go to Hendrik here. Dang. But it's... oh. It does reduce elemental damage. Okay, that is infinitely better than what you currently have. Yeah, we're going to go with that. So yeah, I like those things. You know, travel through dungeons. Not so much exploring the world, because the overworld should just be like connecting to other areas. And that's one of the things I was really worried about with Dragon Quest XI here, because I had played Dragon Quest VIII. And Dragon Quest VIII is like a big, huge, open 3D world, and it takes quite a bit of running and moving around to get from one place to another. Granted, it doesn't have random encounters. It has encounters, well, just like we have encounters here, where you see the monsters on the screen, and then you can choose to run into them or engage them. So I do appreciate that. But I do think that in Dragon Quest VIII, some of the towns and such are just, they're too far spread apart, and there's just too much running in between for no real reason. Like, you don't really get any value. I don't get any value out of that. That's another thing I don't like about massive open world games. You know, I'm looking at Final Fantasy 15 and Zelda Breath of the Wild. And that's why you will not likely be seeing playthroughs of those games on this channel. There is, however, I'll get back to that thought later, maybe. But, so yeah, that's kind of one of the turnoffs for me. Now, Dragon Quest XI, on the other hand, you know, we did have some fairly big areas, but for the most part, the overworld areas were very linear. They're like, okay, we connect these 2 or 3 points together. And there wasn't a lot of, hey, here's a massive open world, here's your next destination, but there's, you know, you can go in like 20 other different directions and find stuff. Another issue I had with Dragon Quest VIII that really sticks out with me is, this was one with plot progression and the massive world. So there was a certain place that the game was trying to send us to, and we had to get down to the lower part of this river. You can't just, you know, fall or jump down there. You have to find a certain staircase. Okay, that's fine. Find a certain staircase or a certain path that leads you down there, and it's along this river. I must have spent at least an hour just running up and down the river, both sides. I can't find the way to get to the path to progress the plot. And the only help the townspeople give you are they send you to the river. And this is not helpful. I had to look it up online twice, not just once, twice. Because I guess there's like a little house somewhere along the river, and they're like, oh yeah, you have to go there. Well, I went there, and I still didn't find it. It turns out the way that they actually designed the area, you have to be facing a certain angle or coming in from a certain angle in order to see the slope downward where you can get to the lower part of the river and actually go to where you need to go for the storyline purposes. And to me, that's just really bad. So I had to look it up again a second time because, you know, just getting the location. They're like, oh, it's by the house. I'm wandering around by the house, and I'm not finding it. So I looked it up again, and they're like, yeah, you have to be at a certain angle around, like, a certain side of the house in order to actually see the thing. Otherwise, you can run up and down the river all day, and you'll never see the slope. Because that's what I did. And so... yeah, big open world. There's like all these little nooks and crannies and such like that. That bit in Dragon Quest VIII is probably the worst offender. least as far as sticking out in my mind. But even like Final Fantasy 15, you know, you have a big, massive open world, and you just run around from like little locations, kind of like in this game where we have our sparkle spots. That is rude, by the way. Not supposed to kill Jace. You have like these sparkle spots where you can collect crafting items or food supplies for cooking or whatever. And they just feel like they're such dinky items that I don't really want to spend my time running around collecting. But at the same time I do, because I don't know when or if I'm going to really need them. And I did not have a fun time with Final Fantasy 15. And then I got to, you know, what I would consider like the first main dungeon, storyline dungeon of the game. And maybe it's just the path that I took through the dungeon, but it felt like the dungeon had... It didn't feel like it, it did. The dungeon had a lot of sequence triggers in it. Sequence triggers that were actually kind of hidden. So you'd run into one room and then like, oh, we heard something back here. And then some other door would just magically open up that was previously locked. And so basically you had to run around and check all the doors over and over to see what was unlocking and what wasn't unlocking, and where you could actually progress the dungeon next. And I did not have a good time with it. It didn't help that the dungeon was just a basic maze where everything looked the same in the dungeon, because it was just like a cave, but it wasn't like caves like, say, Figaro Cave from Final Fantasy VI, where there's different layouts throughout the thing. This is all, nope, here's a narrow passage followed by another narrow passage and connecting halls, and nothing stands out as like markers. Granted, you have a map through the place, but then when you progress so far, then you have to backtrack to who knows where, and I didn't enjoy it. And yeah, after that, it was a complete turn off for me. That and the whole open world thing. I've talked about that, but yeah, Dragon Quest XI. Even though this has been a really long adventure, I've enjoyed almost every step of the way. You know, there's the few minor things that I haven't liked, but those are very minor. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I still give this game a 10 out of 10. One of my favorite RPGs of all time, for sure. So with that, we're actually out of this place, and we will take on the trial boss next time.